choice is living now.
Hey Faith Fellowship parents, I'm so glad to be able to talk with you guys today. We are currently in a series called Real Life, Real Issues, Real God. Hopefully you've gotten our parent newsletter that talks about the different subjects that we're touching on each and every week. So far we've talked about depression, we've talked about identity, and this week we were talking about bullying, which is a huge topic for a lot of our teens. Did you know that every single year, 1 in 3 youth or students experience bullying in some way? I think that number is actually under what it really is. And if you take into account that some of our kids are bullies themselves or in some way participate in bullying, and other kids experience their friends being bullied, I would probably say that every single one of our students every single year are touched by the topic of bullying in some way. It's an important thing that we want to talk about, and I wanted to share with you some of what we're going to be talking about at youth group, and even my own story of how God met me in bullying. Growing up, I experienced a lot of bullying, a lot of being called names, being made fun of for who I was and how I acted. And then when I became a Christian and I lived differently, I was made fun of for the choices that I made in that. It's a real life thing that I struggled with. But I learned some things in those times, in those experiences. And the first is this, that God can meet us in our bullying situations. I love that throughout Scripture there's not one specific scripture that talks about bullying, but there are many scriptures that talk about how God meets those who are persecuted and oppressed. Not only does He meet us, but He also calls for us as His people to love on, to care for, to reach out to the persecuted and oppressed. It's important that we talk about with our kids, with our youth, about how God meets us in those times, but also how we're called to love on and be Him to those who are oppressed, those who are persecuted. It's important. The second thing that we're going to be talking about is that often those who are bullies themselves, whether they bully one time or it's a continual thing, how oftentimes bullies do that because they themselves feel out of control. Their situations in their home life or in themselves that they feel like they need control over. They feel inadequate. They don't feel good enough. And so the way they feel better about themselves is by degrading other people. When we're able to talk with our kids about why bullies bully, then we can understand that we can love them. We can bring them Jesus. And in Scripture it talks about how we're called to pray for our enemies. Well, when you're being bullied, who feels like an enemy more than the person who's bullying you? So if we can love on our kids and we can talk to them about praying for those who bully them, that they don't have to stay in the situation, but they can love them and pray for them, and that God can do the impossible. God can turn that situation around. And last but not least, it's that they're not alone. That not only does God love them and care for them and want to reach out to them, but that God gives us other people to fight on our behalf. When I was a junior in high school, I was in my math class one day, and I was placed with 2 boys. I had to sit by them, and they were really annoying. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I was so annoyed because they talked all the time. I just wanted to focus on doing my homework so that I didn't have to go home and do it, getting my work done, and they talked all the time. And this one specific day, they're talking, and I'm trying to get them to be quiet, and they start talking about a party that they were going to go to, whether it was that night or a couple days later, and they just would not be quiet. Kept telling them, be quiet, please stop talking, I'm trying to do my work, all of that. And finally, I'm fed up, and I'm like, if you don't stop talking, I'm going to tell a teacher. Because, you know, that's the type of kid I was. And I wasn't thrilled that they were talking about a party, but I also wasn't happy that they were just talking. And so they stopped talking about it, and they're quiet, and so for me, problem solved. Moving on, going throughout the day, I go to my second period, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and I go home. Do my homework, and then I jump on AIM. Because that's what we would do. I got on, I'm talking with my friends, and playing probably solitaire because I'm weird and that's what I used to do. And all of a sudden an AIM pops up from someone that I don't recognize. I don't know who it is, but they know me. Hey, Kaitlin. They start the conversation, and they start talking with me, and I pick up pretty quickly that it's from this situation. It's someone associated, whether it's these boys or someone else. They know what happened that morning, and they start to kind of harass me, give me a hard time, like, you know, you better not talk about it, like, don't be a snitch, all these different things. Don't be a tattletale, and it's not a big deal. I'm engaging them in the conversation because I'm like, whatever, they're just being stupid. Well, pretty soon, it starts to turn really serious. And they start to talk about how, you know, you better watch your back. You better be careful because you never know. Bad things could happen to you. And I realized, like, this is no longer innocent. This is no longer, like, I can't deal with this. Like, I can't help myself in this situation. This has gone terribly wrong, and I am over my head. And so once I have this realization, I just stop, and I very quickly type out, like, I'm done with this conversation. I print out what happened, and I get off, and I'm shaken, like, what am I gonna do? Well, I know that my dad's coming home, and I thought, of all the people, my dad can help me. My dad will protect me. My dad's gonna help me with this. He'll know what to do. And so my dad gets home, and I am embarrassed because I know I did not handle this situation well. I probably shouldn't have told them I was going to tell a teacher. I shouldn't have engaged in the conversation, but I knew I needed my dad's help. So I told him what happened earlier. I gave him the conversation. He read over it, and he was mad. So mad. I don't know that I've ever since seen him this angry. And he knows the parents. He asked me what boys are involved. I only know 2, but I'm sure there's more that are involved. So he calls one of the parents because he knows them. And he gets all of the names of the boys, all of their phone numbers. And he demands at every single house that he calls that he talk to the boy. And he tells them how he feels about it. And that they attacked his little girl. And how dare they. And I was in awe and embarrassed and overwhelmed by what my dad was doing. And I could tell that on every single one of those phone calls, every single one of those boys cried because they realized what they had done. They realized that it wasn't a joking matter, that they had threatened my life. And that next day, every single one of those boys came up to me and apologized for the way that they acted. And, you know, I apologized that I probably provoked them. And my dad gets off the phone. And I knew, like, my dad loved me, and I knew that he protected me. But then we had to have a little conversation of, okay, Kaitlin, you did not handle this the right way. Like, you're good now, you're safe now, but let's talk about next time. If this happens again, what do we do? Let's talk about that situation. And even though I was embarrassed, and I don't like being corrected, like most people, I knew that my dad loved me. I knew that he was helping me, and I knew that that was going to help me going forward. And in the same way, you as parents are those people for your kids. Us leaders at youth group, we're there for your kids. That in those situations where your kids get to the point where they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm in over my head. How many times have our kids gone through what they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, they're text messaging with people, and they get messages and they are all of a sudden over their head? Can we be those people where they would know, regardless of the consequences, that they can come to us? That we will fight for them. That we will pray with them. That we will be there with them. We will help them. And that even though there are oftentimes consequences to our actions, whether it's just a conversation like mine, or there's other situations, other circumstances, that they can come to us. That we're safe. That we're there for them. That's you. That is you as parents. And you are called to love on them, to encourage them, and to help them see that God also is fighting on their behalf. So I want you to know, parents, you have what it takes to be there for your kids. Trust God in them and in you. Ask God to help you, to encourage you, to give you wisdom. He will. You are exactly the parents that your kids need you to be. We love you and we are here for you. If you need anything, if you have questions, if there's something going on and you need support, we're here. I'm here. I love you guys. You are amazing. We're so thankful for the parents that you are for our kids. Well, I love you and I'll talk with you later. Have a great day. Bye.
This is living now.